Hey there, I'm Mark from Spectrum Pulse, and today we have from Pile and Hayden Pedigo, In the Earth Again. And now on to the real meat. This was a collab that seemed at first to come out of nowhere, but the more you thought about it, well, it made all the sense in the world. Driven off a sheer coincidence when Hayden Pedigo moved from Texas to a couple blocks away from Pile's bassist in Oklahoma City, when Pedigo proposed a collab, it moved from a mere feature to a full-on record, and again, the more you think about it, the more sense it made. At the core of both acts, there's this bone-deep sincerity and a leftist fervor that could move amidst the irony-poisoned internet and still thrive. For Pedigo, coming from his political campaign in Texas in the late 2010s that some thought was performance art until they saw how seriously he was taking it, and for Pile, hell, go through Cool World or God's Country. They weren't exactly hiding it. So it looked to be one of the most intriguing collabs we would hear in 2025, especially as both were coming off of their best albums to date, and thus it's a bit perplexing that the final result feels like a little less than the sum of its parts. But that's more because In the Earth Again is a peculiar album as a whole, where in order to integrate Pedigo's fast-picked cycling progressions and broader soundscapes, Pile opted not just for more instrumental passages for the seething riffs to simmer in contrast, but actually away from the churning blend of sludge and alternative metal towards something closer to maybe post-metal? Smoked out, reverb-saturated, less percussion around the melodic leads to accentuate that haunted 90s grunge timbre that Cool World had introduced, especially coming on cuts like Demon Time, less driving, sinuous bass grooves and punishing murk, where I actually think Pile acquitted themselves pretty well self-producing this project, in exception to that ugly keening left on Radioactive Dreams, no idea what happened there, but in helping Pedigo's guitar work pop and blend like on the watery seething of Behold a Pale Horse, or the discordant country interplay of Inside, but maybe leech too much of their muscle and melodic hooks away in the process. I've seen people describe this album as seamless in the collab, and that couldn't feel further from reality for me. Instead, feeling like the frustrating meet in the middle, where they found common emotional ground in the gentle unspooling of the atmospherics, but Pile pulled back on their groove in the tighter compositions. In all due honesty, I can't say Pedigo provided his most striking guitar progressions or soundscapes here either, certainly not compared to the last album or a cut like Smoked. And when those progressions can be short on crescendos or truly potent licks, I found myself appreciating more of the potential of the collab than the songs we actually got from it. Speaking of which, I can't exactly say I'm wowed by the songwriting here either. There's always been this shambling, apocalyptic edge to Pile, but for the majority of this album, the scope feels considerably broader. Global environmental apocalypse and collapse and war leaves the air and water a polluted, poisoned, radioactive waste, where tunneling into the earth might keep you alive for a time, but can't keep those inner demons at bay. Made all the worse by the numb, lonely realization amidst all the dead that it's not going to free you from those demons. And thus, despite it all, you should be somewhat grateful for life, the true miracle, if it happening at all, you gotta keep trying. A note of sad hope that makes the closer, A Tear for Lucas, such a heartbreaking commemoration to a late friend, for someone who lived past the brink where frontman Raygun Bush's halting, choked up delivery desperately wishes that he could have saved him. And if I were to highlight anything that really elevates this album, makes it worth hearing, it is that emotional territory. Pile has excelled in viscerally relatable catharsis, going down every twisted rabbit hole. Pedigo in a surreal, yet kind of familiar comfort. And their strength comes in sharing and accentuating that empathy for each other's circumstance. And yet there's something tactile and more grounded that feels a little askew in the execution. Be it lyrics that paint in broadly bleak and apocalyptic language that can miss the viscerally venal or human core, or compositions that feel more abstracted in order to amplify scope but diminishes the groove or the melodic hooks. Truthfully, some of the most powerful moments on the album come when Pedigo's own weirder melodic scent is allowed to fuse with Pile, accentuate their most visceral and punishing moments, like the rumbling, eerie stomp of Never Say Die, how the tape spools behind the menacing Fission fusion that then leads to this eerie slow build to the punishingly nasty riff on the Matador. But as a whole, You know, the best way to consider this is a pretty good experiment with an emotionally rich core but slightly spotty execution. And I like the play for a more ambitious collab, but I wish it was an amplification of their styles in the fusion, not a compromise. It's certainly intriguing, and I know there's going to be an audience that finds this very cathartic, or at least a very welcome introduction to Hayden Pedigo, whose album from earlier this year absolutely deserves a lot more attention. And you know what, with that, it's going to get a recommendation. It is worth hearing. Don't bury your head in the sand. Check it out. So yeah, thanks a lot for watching. If you want to see more, please be sure to like, share, drop comments, subscribe. I'll freely admit I really wanted this to click a little bit more with me. I loved their last two albums, but I don't know. Like, again, it's one of those cases where I appreciate a lot of what they're doing, but the execution just felt a bit askew. It happens with these sorts of collabs and experiments all the time, really. But hey, leave your comments down there below. Anything else I might be able to do to improve my presentation, I'm all ears. And if you want to get involved in helping support the channel, get albums on my schedule, or just yell at me on my Discord, link to my Patreon and YouTube memberships is right over there. Don't feel obligated, tough times out there, but the option is available. Till then, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.